from the business point of view, उस सेम कमरा जो 1500 रुपए कमाता है उसमें 500 into 8 4000 का potential.
I found it very hard to recruit people who have the skills that are required on the job.
बहुत हो गया दूसरों के लिए काम करके कुछ खुद का करते हैं.
Yes, we might not have the deep pockets for global R&D and the best R&D experts on board, but our job is to figure shit out.
Why am I just telling people what to do? Why can't I just do it? And we kind of have had the honor of working with some of the best people from across the world, like some Fortune 500 companies, a couple of Y Combinator funded startups, and many more. Some venture 360 startups from Canada, and many more startups and bigger enterprises. So it was kind of really haunting and hurting for us, both Ankita and me, that why can't we as Indians kind of practice our right to make and consume world-class products at the same time when the rest of the world does. We spend 3 to 4 times more on the raw materials and technology that we use in our products compared to any other brand in India.
So now, because it's a D2C company, I don't think so you will sell on any other platforms as of now. How do you reach out to your customers? What are your strategies of acquiring and mainly retaining? Like retention is mainly the key point of course, everybody looks at. How do you ensure that? And what are the most important metrics you track here?
Right, Siddhant. So I'll start with the metrics first, and then I'll tell how we go about it, right? So some of the numbers we are absolutely proud of, and that is because we command one of the highest, I say one of the highest because I cannot say who commands what, but we definitely command one of the highest retention in this category, because every single month that Zymrat lives by, we see at least 35% people, existing customers, coming back for repeat purchase. No? And that is, I believe, is one of the highest numbers in this category that probably you can see in marketplaces or and that is that too at our price point, because we command our, our AOVs are well above 2,000 rupees. Our ASPs are well above 1,500 rupees. So at these AOVs and ASPs, the retention becomes even more difficult. And even then we have 35% retention, which speaks for itself for how good the quality of the products are, right? In terms of reaching out to people, again, when it comes to building a brand in India with D2C strategy, with great products, discoverability is a huge, I would say, driving factor for how the brand will grow. Now, there are two ways to get discovered, right? One is, of course, your, big billboards, bigger celebrity like hire a Bollywood guy, somebody from Bollywood or somebody from the cricketing industry, and then run with it, right? But then it costs a lot of money. Now, we started as a bootstrap brand, of course, with limited resources, and we wanted to invest the maximum amount of resources on the products, not on advertising, on marketing, or hiring a celebrity, right? So then we started utilizing the community at large. So we were already connected pretty well, in the community in areas like Bangalore, few folks in Delhi, few folks in Mumbai. So we started speaking to some of these community members, people who do CrossFit, people who do strength conditioning, people who play sports, people who do yoga. And then we started, kind of working with these folks on two fronts. Number one, we started using them as testers. So, some of our ad copies will always read like tested by 100 plus experts. And we literally done that. So, there have been, I would say, not less than 50 sessions. And there wouldn't have been less than 50 sessions in the beginning of Zymrat when we actually called these people from, fitness community in our office to test the products. And every time we had a feedback from them, we went back to a drawing board, we figured that part out, and then we went back to the manufacturers again to fix that thing, right? Now, what this did is this established a layer of trust in the community, because these experts started to know that, okay, these are the guys who are actually putting in a lot of work in the product. So they slowly started talking about the brand, right? Because we were testing the products with them. We were testing, the features with them. We were giving them products for 2 to 3 months timeline to test out the features and all that. So they slowly became the ambassadors, without ever having any agreement per se that, okay, you have to promote the product or we are going to pay you any money. No transactional relationship. It's just that they started believing in the product and they started talking about it to their clients, to their members, folks. And you would know, Siddhant, that, people, even with some of the micro guys with 3,000 Instagram followers have much higher engagement and trust than
Correct.
somebody who has a
Yeah.
million followers, right? So
Right.
these smaller macro coaches, macro influencers, and coaches from experts from across the community became the flag bearer for the brand, and they started talking. And that's how I would say the initial word about the brand spread, at least in Bangalore and Mumbai, to a certain level, because these two are also leading cities for us. And then, of course, once we had actual products in the hand, once we have products in the factory, we went online first. We still are 100% digital brand, so we went online first, and we used a lot of advertising platforms like Facebook and Google to reach a larger audience. But to be honest, till date, the coach-led campaigns, expert-led workshops, strategies continue to be one of our primary brand awareness channels that we use. For example, in the last 12 months alone, we have, I would say, worked with close to 150 to 200 odd coaches who have in different capacities, whether it's as ambassadors or promotional campaigns or affiliates or influencers. And interesting thing is that at least 30% of these coaches that we have worked with, they initially were our customers. So then, somebody from a team identified that, oh, hey man, this guy is a really
Already.
good football coach. Why don't we get him as a ambassador and start working with him? Or this guy owns a CrossFit gym, so why can't we work with him? Something like that. So that's definitely be one of the primary channels for us to spread the brand awareness and to take to the larger community. Also, over the last couple of years, not couple of years, but last 1.5 years to be precise, we've also been able to build a very strong email community, and we take a lot of pride in it, because we are every single email that we send out sees open rates of as high as 25 to 35%, which is again a very high number for people, for a brand to kind of command. I know there are newsletters like Hustle and all which sees 50, 60, 70% open rates as well. But for a brand to say that, okay, we are seeing 25 to 35% open rates is a huge number, right? So that is, of course, becoming a very fast channel for us to kind of communicate with customers. We do, snack size content around fitness with our journal, which is called as the High Road. We keep people engaged. And email is also becoming a very strong brand building kind of channel for us, one step at a time.
Got it. Understood. So yours is a completely D2C brand. Now there comes an aggregator models like Myntra, Amazon, Flipkart, where people sell these products. How do you see this as a competition? Everybody knows Amazon and these charges a lot of 20 to 30% as commission. But how do you see this kind of competition?
Of course, one thing is, to be honest, Amazon, Myntra, and Flipkart are not the competition, right? If they're anything, they are basically drivers. Because we know that at some point in time, for us to, let's say, go to 1,000 crore scale, we'll have to use all possible channels in the country available, to reach maximum number of people, right? And it's also a matter of trust, because when we sit on a data, on a weekly, on a monthly basis, we also see that there are folks who come to the website and, let's say, they're a little skeptical about, okay, who these guys are, who this brand, what this brand is. So they'll always go and also search on Amazon, right? So there's a lot of organic things that are already happening on Amazon, even though we are not listed on Amazon. Honestly, we don't see them as competition per se. We see them as drivers, which will eventually start to play out once we decide listing the products on Amazon. The reason why we have not done that is not because we have anything against marketplaces. There are primarily two reasons. One is, our price points are definitely a little steeper than what average ASP are on marketplaces. And even marketplace guys have, kind of been very open about it, whether we speak to Amazon or whether we speak to Myntra or Flipkart. Number two, data, right? So building a brand is a lot to do with how we kind of speak to the customers, what kind of experience we create for them, what kind of communication strategies we put in place. Because if there's a challenge in return or challenge in the quality, we want to create the best experience for the customers. So we knew from day one that Ankita and I at least we wanted to speak personally to first 1,000 customers for sure, and that happened long time ago. Even today, we make sure that every single month some of the prominent members on our team are speaking to the customers very actively, and apart from the return request and all that call which is happening on a daily basis, we go out and talk to some of the people on active basis to kind of get their feedback on the product, get their feedback on the brand, get their feedback on the experiences, because we are doing a lot of things on our end, in terms of product marketing, branding, content creation, but then there's a lot of thing which is also a little bit outside of our control. For example, the last mile deliveries, the fulfillment, where, because at least, I mean, none of the brands, at least that we know, have built their own delivery partner network, because that is also not a right business model, I would say. So kind of, to get an idea of how things are progressing with the customers, we kind of continue to have discussions with the customers, and owning that data was a very, very, big thing for us from day one. And that's how we have been able to build this active email community. Almost 20-25% of our sales every month comes from just emails, right? So that, imagine, like, I know a lot of D2C brands depend heavily on Facebook and Google. So if we were to stop all the advertising, we would still command at least 10-15% of our revenue, hypothetically, right?
Got it.
So that's why we have stayed away from Amazon and Myntra and Flipkart. But to be honest, it'll come into picture for sure, maybe sometime in 2020.
Yeah, you can get more customers at the end from there, and then you can directly sell from your own website. Got it. So just you said that weekly and monthly you are looking at numbers. So what are the key metrics you as a co-founder, CEO, you are looking at? Like, these are the metrics we should be targeting, or some targets you would have set, or some growth metrics you have set. What are these you see in a D2C brand?
Number one is, of course, the number of orders you are shipping on every month-on-month basis. Right. I mean, that is the indicator of the scale that we are able to achieve, for sure. That is the main, and that is purely from scale point of view and purely from growth point of view. But that is, I would say, a metric that we just track and then move on, because some of the underlying metrics are very, very important, and that is going to define the health of the business in the long run, right? So, for example, we want to, we very actively track the repeat purchase that happens every month on month, right? Because that gives us confidence that we are moving in the right direction. I mean, if we see that in a month ever we see less than 5%, 10% repeat, then it means there's a problem in the product or in the entire SKU or in the entire collection that we've launched. People are not liking the product, that's why they're not coming back, right? So very actively, very aggressively, we track the repeat purchase. Number two, very aggressively, we track the return and refund percentage as well. So in the entire history of the company, Siddhant, with few exceptions, during COVID and all, of course, we have seen less than 2% refund requests on all the delivered orders. And that is something which makes us incredibly proud, because, coming from a non-fashion background, establishing the supply chain, such extensive supply chain across countries like Taiwan, US, Sri Lanka, India, we were able to make products which sees very less returns. So we track retention as well as returns, and then we track some of the other financial indicators like AOVs. Because if our AOVs start to drop really low, then it means again there's a challenge that we are seeing in the product, and customers are not able to justify the price points. And number two, of course, the CAC, because we are a digital brand, and we kind of constantly go on spending money on some of these advertising platforms across the board. So we actively track CAC as well, to ensure that as a company we are healthy and running in the long run, built for the long-term business. And then a few more things. I mean, metrics wise, I think that we have hundreds, so I cannot name everything.
Right. Major ones.
Few more major ones will be gross margins, because again, for any D2C brand, I would say at least minimum 65 to 70% margin has to be there. Otherwise, it will become extremely difficult to build a business in the long run. And then, of course, the contribution margins, where you see, the margins after all these expenditures have been done. So a few of these metrics are very, very important. Also, conversion rates on website, because that defines a lot of things in terms of how the economics play out, unit economics, and all that stuff. So these are the few things done that we track actively.
Right. So just for the understanding of users, AOV means average order value, and CAC is customer acquisition cost. The CAC is like per user, how much you are spending monthly to acquire those customers.
Absolutely.
So, So also let's just last one question from me. So this is very a general question because you come from you have come from that background because you don't have an experience in particular industry. Do you think like for any industry for anybody who's starting, do you think that they need to have a prior experience like compulsory in that, or how it can be?
Absolutely not. I am actually a strong believer on the other side of the things.
Yeah.
There are few things where for sure the experience in that domain, the vertical matters. For example, supply chain, logistics. Some of these industries, of course, require a lot of experience in groundwork in managing people and all that stuff. But by and large, honestly, I believe that the more disconnected you are from the industry, the more new thought
Thoughts
processes
you
you
can
bring
bring in.
into the. Yes, absolutely. And we have seen that being repeated in the history in some of the best companies across the world, even performance side of things. Most of the people who have built these brands have, been athletes, been sports persons themselves, been active fitness enthusiasts, and not necessarily from a fashion or a textile background, right?
Right.
So, I mean, if you were to ask me, I am on a different side of the thought process where I say, rather come with a clean slate and write your own story instead of coming with a bunch of baggage from your background and saying that, okay,
Correct.
this is something which is done in a specific way. And I'll tell you a very quick example. So when we started building Zymrat, now building a brand is also a lot about visual content, right? I mean, what kind of videos and photos we produce.
Yeah.
Now, again, that is also something which we had never done. Ankita and I, we both come from engineering backgrounds, our own tech journey and all that stuff, right? So apart from apparel, this whole brand building process, visual content was also very new to us. So the first response, or let's say fight and flight response of most of the companies, is that go to an agency, hire them and just let them do the thing. We thought, okay, I mean, this is our product. How can somebody else understand what needs to be told in terms of story? So we again came with a clean slate in visual content production. And then I think our visual content is definitely something which is one of the best, I would say, in this category in the D2C brands. A lot of people relate to it. We see a lot of engagements, and everything that happens in that area happens in-house, and that's something we should be able to do because we were coming with a clean slate in terms of brand building, in terms of agency and all that stuff. So my thought is completely different to that. I think the more cleaner your slate is, the better story you can write.
Great. I think I even believe that like you should have a different thinking to launch, because otherwise you'll again go with the traditional methods of selling and making a product. You should have a different thinking. Great. So
Absolutely.
these are the questions from my side. Any last word of advice for budding entrepreneurs or students out there, if you have anything?
Absolutely. I think first of all, we consider ourselves budding entrepreneurs. I mean, there's such an amazing success story happening across India, right? You have, I think in the last few months, we saw so many IPOs happening, so many inspirational entrepreneurs, success stories, companies to take inspiration from and write everyone else's success story as well. In terms of advice, I mean, it's not more like an experience, I would say, rather than advice, is that just stick to the thought process and stick to what you're building for a long time, and things will start falling into place. And that's something which happened for us also, right? And building Zymrat has been nothing short of a dream come true. But we have definitely seen a lot of challenges, right? Establishing supply chain across 4 countries, one of the biggest challenges that we saw. Our supply chain, the kind of products we make, again, it's just unmatched by any other Indian brand, and that is because we have worked extensively on it. But we stuck to it, and we stuck to it so long that all these people who we work with in these countries, now they have such strong relationship with us, such strong layer of trust built in, that we don't even need to let's say pay them in advance or have anything released per se to get them to start working. We just need to put an email and work starts. Similarly, in terms of getting resources onto the brand, whether it's funding, whether it's team members, anything, if you kind of keep at it, things will eventually start falling into place. Things will eventually start taking the shape that you have envisioned. So I think persistence and perseverance is definitely, that plays a huge role in general, man. And that is purely from my experience rather than advice. I think we're yet to reach a position where we can actually give some advice.
Got it. But yeah, experience is everything with what matters here.
Absolutely.
So thanks Ujjawal for coming on the show. It was great talking to you.
Likewise, man. Likewise, Siddhant. And I absolutely love that you're wearing a Super Silver t-shirt for the show.
Yeah, that's why I like your product. I'm using it for my workouts. Yeah.
How I'm sure you're liking it. We're launching a lot many products in the Super Silver range, and also a few more products which is outside of Super Silver range. We're launching a 100-gram t-shirt in the coming month,
Wow.
which is targeted for marathon runners and people who do a lot of intense activities. It just weighs 100 gram. Absolutely beautiful products. Then in the next quarter, by end of next quarter, early first quarter of FY 21-22, we'll also be launching a lot of home active products, because what we have seen is our customers love performance products that we are launching and repeatedly
Yes.
selling. And there's a huge demand from us for coming up with products which can be worn at home, at office, or at the running track or gym as well. So a
Right.
lot of things going to be happening at Zymrat. So, I request you to kind of keep checking us out, and everybody else who is listening as well.
Definitely. I'll check out those products also. Thanks.
All right.
Thanks, Ujjawal.
Thanks for having me, man. Thanks,
Thank
Asthana.
you.
Nice talking to you. All right. Bye, guys.
Bye bye.